Okay, I'm waiting. 1966. Okay. Okay, great. So thank you everybody for coming today. Our session today is on nature-based and spiritual technologies for climate resilient food systems. It sounds like a mouthful, but I'm sure our panelists will break it down and speak to the parts that really touch them. So today is Youth Day, so we have a panel of youth, but we also want to create an intergenerational and cross-cultural dialogue and conversation about type of nature-based solutions and spiritual technologies that we are having now and in the future we want to value as well. So we have here our panelists, and I'm sure each of them will introduce themselves and then speak to the question. So the first one is to Aya. As a young person, what are your views on technology and the intersection between technology and food systems?
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Aya. I'm a post-growth researcher. I also work with indigenous communities to try to incubate their solutions for regeneration, mainly in water. When I saw the headline of this panel, which is spiritual technologies, I just paused to ask myself a question. The solutions that we're trying to bring is a solution to a problem. And modern science and traditional indigenous knowledge systems view the problem in a completely different light. Traditional knowledge systems typically start from the source, and then the source manifests itself in different planes in different ways. And then that's how they can see the interconnectedness between all these levels. While for modern science, we can say like starting the 1500s with the birth of the Renaissance was the birth of the era of separation, where technologies and science was used as a domination tool for nature, and where we started to silo everything. We started to go into parts and try to quantify everything. And therefore, we see modern solutions look at the climate problem as an engineering problem. So trying to only look at great technological fixes, not to say that they're not helpful, but when you don't understand the bigger vantage point, that's where we're missing out over here. And that's what traditional knowledge systems can bring into this conversation. So for the traditional knowledge systems, they see that what we have is a problem of separation. It's a sickness of the spirit. And because of this separation, we have this huge void. And therefore, we want to dominate, accumulate more and more. And our technologies view everything in nature as inanimate, that is a resource, versus that we are all kin and we are all part of one system, and how can we as humans be stewards? So when we talk about spiritual technologies, there's also us in the equations. You know, how do we heal ourselves so then we can also heal the earth? And most of indigenous knowledge systems are embedded within culture and embed their people with it and embed their rituals into their solutions. So then if we just talk about food systems, when we see this perspective of the separation and siloing everything and everything for extraction and efficiency and profit making, we see that that also translated into our food systems. We went from being polyculture to monoculture, a time where different species were thriving together for our food, like mimicking nature, to actually advancing only monoculture, efficiency, higher yields, one crop, not thinking about the impact of that, what it has on the soil, and how we can, and how there's an actually living ecosystem, just thinking in silos again. And so then how do we embed, and this polyculture is not just in food, it's also in what we view as good, what we view as right, what is the image of the human. There's only one image of human now, which we need to all abide to, and everything is disregarded as secondary. So how do we bring in this diversity back into our technologies, and how do we bring in this diversity and pluralism into the solutions that we want to bring in for the climate? So yeah, so just like speaking on the indigenous value systems, there's the kinship that we are all one. There is also the reciprocity principle. If I take, I give back. So that's why if I'm farming, it's not just so I can eat. How do I nurture the soil? How do I regenerate all the organisms that are within this? Because again, that cosmovision of all is interconnected. And so yeah, that took me into my journey of like really studying where did we go wrong, and really made me look into indigenous ways of solving this crisis. And right now I'm actually involved in a project in Sinai, the desert of Egypt, on how can we bring back water to the desert. And that is through decentralized water management systems. And essentially what we're doing over there, the local Bedouins have been observing the topography of the lands for years and years. And we are working with the land to create water harvesting systems. And these are very low tech. Anyone can actually do it. We were also inspired by the work of Rajendra Singh, who's the waterman of India. He's revived maybe 12,000 kilometers of rivers in the Rajasthan desert. And he's done this work simply by empowering communities to understand the water cycle. And that is so he went to, and then bringing back the community to start to decide as where's the best place to catch this water. Resources and money and all of this was actually most like donated by the community. So someone's like, I can volunteer, I can give materials. And it's like, how do we come in together as a community, bringing our gifts to regenerate this water systems. So building on that, in Sinai, there's a huge role that the elders play. And they are actually, we're working together to form an intergenerational council for water, where the elders are bringing this knowledge of understanding the land, and the youth bringing in the new ways as well, because there is a space for modern technologies and tools, but just within the right context. So it's a very exciting project, and it's very exciting to bring in all the pieces, because it's not only the youth and the elders, we're also working with researchers, with scientists, on giving us satellite data, analyzing the underground aquifers. So we all have to be on board on this, and we're all working. I think essentially we're all working for the good, but some of us see it from a different vantage point. And this is where I really think traditional knowledge systems can really help us see clearly the root of this problem and how we can formulate the right solution. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. I really want to build upon that. Like this, the feeling that you give is it's about now, and it's about people working together as a whole, and not just taking silos and then breaking them apart, but actually how do we bring the silos that are existing together so that we could create this whole system and to provide a resilient food system. So thank you very much. So we'll move to Sheila. So Sheila, kind of what are your solutions that you think will be useful in creating a climate resilient food system?
Okay, so I'm supposed to like solve the climate crisis in 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
On it.
10 minutes, just short and sweet.
All right. Okay, so thank you all for having me. My background is in environmental health science. So that is kind of the perspective that I bring, while also weaving in my experiences being an Indigenous woman in like modern America, and also going through academia in that way. I really want to build off of what Aya was saying in terms of how the mentality that we approach nature and our food systems is the root of the cause. I think that we tend to view nature in two ways that are contributing the most to our issues with the food system. We view nature as simplistic, and we view nature as subservient. So in terms of viewing nature as simplistic, which is a mindset we all need to break out of, one of the technologies that was mentioned in the abstract that I want to talk a little bit more about is GMOs, and how there's a lot of oversimplification of what that is, what the potential is, and also treating it as kind of a plug and play sort of thing. We share approximately 30% of our DNA with corn. Like, there's hundreds of genes just to make sure your cells have a nucleus. So changing one or two genes is going to end up having a major cascading effect. It's not really, we don't really have the ability to create sort of a designer plant that's going to be very effective. So that's one thing that I know a lot of people have been like, okay, well, we can GMO our way out of our food scarcity. And that's honestly really not a very feasible solution. I mean, my undergrad degree is in genetics and plant biology. I've mutagenized things. It's a lot of work, and it's just not really going to end up being a sustainable or reliable solution, partially because nature is a lot more complex than we like to think it is. I mean, just even going down into a biological level, we as human beings each have 2 sets of chromosomes. Most species in the Poaceae family, or the grasses family, have 6 sets of chromosomes. Another finger up in here. So they're basically 3 times as complex as we are, but we're totally okay manipulating plant species and not humans. Not that I'm advocating for manipulating humans like that, but it would actually probably be slightly simpler. The difference is we view humans as more important than nature, and which is why we feel like we can manipulate certain species and not others. The other thing that people tend to forget about when we're talking about GMO technology, getting back to that kind of shared genome system, is a lot of different species have these same types of genes. I know for a while there was some controversy around golden rice, funded by the Gates Foundation, basically vitamin A enriched rice, because there was issues with blindness in several countries that were heavily rice dependent. So the idea was, okay, well, we'll just make some vitamin A enriched rice. It'll help your eyes, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to completely forget the colonial structures that are causing that starvation in the first place, and forget the fact that all of these people have been able to live there since time immemorial before colonial power started messing it up. So we're just going to paper over the issue, which is my real objection to it. One of the objections that got a lot of attention, though, was because there were genes being spliced in from algae, and also genes being spliced in from sunflowers. One of the algae genes that was being used, I want to say it was cytochrome P350, but don't 100% quote me on that. It was something like there, one of them, because it was also found in fish. And it's like, that to me just shows how very, very interconnected we are down to a biological level, down to a molecular and genetic level. We're so much more connected than we like to think we are. And erasing that papers over the issues of colonialism that are causing the scarcity in the first place, which brings us to the next issue with how we view nature. We don't just view it as simplistic. We view nature as subservient. We've decided that we want our food system to be designed for maximum production, regardless of whatever that does to the land, regardless of whatever that does to the people working with these crops. That's what we've decided. And that type of view of nature as limitless, and that we are entitled to take as much as possible, exploit it as much as possible, is part of the other issue. Related to that, and bear with me while I go on this particular tangent, the view of nature as subservient is also in line with settler colonial views on women and femininity. And settler colonial views of land and nature always have it hyper-feminized. Like, why on earth do we call forests virgin? Like, why is there a virgin forest? So this dual view of nature both being only feminine and also that femininity is equivalent with subservience feeds the mindset. Like, I come from a matriarchal culture. I'm Apache, I'm Chiricahua Apache. And while there's literally over 1,000 different tribes all throughout Turtle Island and Abayala down towards the south, the vast majority have significantly more respect for women than a lot of more Christian and settler-based views of humanity. And that seeps into our relationship with the land because we don't view nature as a resource to extract. We view nature as a relative. We're in this together. But that view of subservience is interconnected, and we need to change both of those. So if we're talking about solutions, honestly, one of the solutions I have is respecting women and femininity. Like, that will end up helping shift our mindset, because the biggest issue is the simplicity and the subservience, this idea that we can exploit it and maximize it for just however much we want. So I had a couple of notes up in here. All right. So just as an example on some of the ways that we've modified our current food system that has complete disregard for both more traditional methods of agriculture and for people who are working with it, organophosphates. It's a common type of fertilizer. In 2021, the US used 19 million metric tons of fertilizer for commercial agriculture. That is beyond excessive. Even more, 40% of food produced in the US goes to waste. Think about that. Our ethic of maximal production is just not working. But one of the ways that organophosphates works is by inhibiting something called acetylcholinesterase. It's a mouthful. And that is important. It's an important neurotransmitter and hormone. So basically, it's necessary for your entire body to work down from your head to your muscles. And if that is inhibited, you're basically going to be paralyzed. And that is one of the ways that it ends up like killing pests. Interestingly enough, sage has acetylcholinesterase inhibitors. Like, sage already has this potential. And if we are inhibiting acetylcholinesterase, that means that there's more acetylcholine, and we will burn sage and it makes us feel better, both for spiritual reasons and honestly, if we're even going to get into it, down to the biochemical pathways, because we are making it easier for both our brains and our bodies to function with this. And we didn't need anyone else to tell us that. We didn't need to struggle through OCHEM, which sucked, in order to know this. And we don't need literally tons and tons of synthetic fertilizer. We need to slow down the production and go back to some more traditional methods, because when used in moderation, sage can have the same effects without also causing endocrine disruption and all types of diseases with people who are forced to work with excessive amounts of organophosphates without any protections, without any respect, intentionally being exploited. And that's all for excessive consumption. So this lack of protections, both for the people working with the land, who we have also chosen to devalue and really need to be considered and brought into the conversation. Farm workers have extremely minimal protections. It's ridiculous. That also just needs to be brought into, sorry, my apologies. That also just needs to be brought into the conversation when we're talking about protection for the land. We cannot forget the people who are bearing some of the brunt of working with it. That's not even getting into the communities that have to deal with pesticides in their water. Like, I grew up in Tracy, California, in a very, very agricultural part of the world. California provides over 90% of like the entire nation's produce. A lot of us didn't drink the water there because it was full of pesticides. For the first 2 years of my life, I grew up directly across from a tomato field. And whenever they would have those little planes with pesticide fly over, like directly in front of us, basically spraying all of us with pesticide, my parents would be like, quick, get the baby in the house. They're spraying the crops again. It's just kind of a messed up system, and it's based off of a desire for increased production. It's based off of a ethic of subservience and viewing nature as more simplistic than it is. So while I don't have a full solution, a lot of it has to do with going back to more traditional methods of pest control and also being okay with not producing as much. We're not even consuming it.
Yeah.
All right.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you for bringing together the science behind kind of what we need to do. So before we move on to the next panelist, I just want to build upon that and just like maybe each of you could give maybe some concrete message or actions that for people that want to conciliate between that kind of traditional and then that modern technologies. Do you have any solutions or any kind of actions that you think people should take on?
Hi, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, my pleasure to join today's panel. I think I appreciate what previous two panelists to highlight some very important points regarding to nature solution-based applications for food system. My name is Nevin Huang. I'm the Managing Director of KPMG Sustainability Consulting based in Taiwan. And our major mission is first of all, just like previous two panelists has been already addressed, now is almost the time for all of us to take it very serious for bringing everyone back to nature. So our major mission, first one is to bring the awareness for everyone to understand how nature can help us to not just only mitigation, but also adaptation. Especially right now, we do have 8 billion global population who is going to feed everyone in a much more resilient way. So that become very big challenge for all of us. Our second mission, if we want to feed everyone under a pretty resilient way, it's very important is to scale up the nature solution based nature-based solution. Then a scale up, you need to have a professional assistant to incubate a lot of a social entrepreneur, farmer, to build a much more robust business model to let the production and also the efficiency can be well improved to ensure the productivity of the food based on the nature-based solution. So how to incubate the social entrepreneur in nature-based solution to build up a much more robust business model and also profit model, that is very important. And this was strongly related to our third mission is to provide the pitching opportunity for social, for nature-based solution entrepreneur with the mainstream or impact investor. So this kind of a pitching opportunity is very important. We know that a lot of a nature-based solution is a traditional technology, but traditional technology is not good enough. Back to our moderator's question, how we can integrate or leverage the modern and smarter technology, and then to make the solution-based, the nature solution-based business model can be much better to increase the profitability, because we know based on the current global warming and climate change, we do have a very significant land loss, and then farming land decrease very significantly. And then we also have a more and more serious extreme weather events. So this both side of a negative impact will make a lot of food production system quite vulnerable because of the climate change issues. So I would like to provide several examples. We have already, no matter that is incubate or accelerate in Taiwan, that is focused on the food production system by using smarter technology. For example, one of the social enterprises called AgriGaia. And AgriGaia, they use the irrigation system not above the ground, it's under the ground. So that is something like, it's a biomimic technology, just imitate, just like our blood tube. When we do have a lot of nutrition, oxygen will go through every part of our body through the blood tube, and then they will leak and into our body to let our body to be taken care by having that kind of a nutrition. So the biomimic technology for irrigation under the ground can save water very efficiently. It saves more than 70% of the water. If you irrigate above the ground, you can see that a lot of water is wasted. So save water, save energy, save also very significant reduce carbon emission. But the most important is it also increase the productivity very, very significantly. So this kind of biomimic technology, they not just only based on the traditional technology, by using the smarter technology, that is become one very important, you can say something like advance the nature-based solution technology. And then another case is there is one company is also social entrepreneur. It's called ID Water. ID Water, they are actually their business model is consisting of the frame farming, but the frame farm also have some solar panel for producing the green electricity to be used in the frame farm. And then they also use the organic way for the frame farm, and the wastewater consists of a lot of very good nutrition. Then after purifying, then the water discharge for planting the mangrove. So you can see that kind of a loop has to create a so-called social, economic, and also ecosystem. It's completely a triple bottom lines business model. And then the productivity can be also ensured. And then this kind of a system also need to leverage digitalization tool to monitor what will be the best condition for raising the frame, and then to ensure the productivity. So this is the second example. The third example is called AgriWeather. That is also a Taiwanese social entrepreneur, but they leverage the AI, big data, and digitalization technology to a lot of a sensor around the farm, no matter what kind of product, vegetable, crops, or tea, or fruit. And then they use a lot of a sensor to monitor the water humidity under the ground, and also leverage the big data. For example, like if based on the weather report that this afternoon is going to rain, heavy rain, then the farmer don't need to accurate the irrigation system for watering. Then they save water, then become much more smarter. And then, right now today is the youth day. We also encourage the youth come back to nature by using the traditional technology to move forward a lot of nature-based solution. So the youth farmer, sometimes, a lot of conflict for the youth farmer with their parents, because the traditional farming technology normally is based on fertilizer, a lot of chemical pesticide, but the youth farmer, they would like to do it very different. They want to make a difference. But this kind of agriculture, leveraging digitalization, smarter skill set, and big data analysis, so that will facilitate the user farmer how to take care of their plant, their vegetable, their crops, their fruit. When it's better to do something special for ensuring the maximum productivity. So this is also very, very fantastic example. So for using this kind of digital solution, I think we also leverage two major we call it two major power. The first one is called buying power. We would like to encourage the private sector to leverage the nature-based solutions, then to include those kind of farmer or social entrepreneur to be included in their supply chain. For example, a lot of a retailer, department store, supermarket, or food company. And so buying power become very important driving force for scaling up the nature-based solution. The second one is investing power. So we would like to introduce a lot of this kind of nature solution-based entrepreneur to be well recognized by the impact investor, because if the solution want to be scaled up, then they need capital. So the capital market also need to have a lot of opportunity to know who is the most promising, who is the most transparent and to deliver the impactful solution, but very important with integrity. So I think this dual power, buying power and investing power is also what KPMG, we have already put a lot of effort in providing those kind of facilitation and assistance to the social, to the nature-based solution entrepreneur.
Great. Thank you very much. It's really great to see you bring that perspective, a different perspective, in terms of like investing into this conversation, because at the same time, it's kind of two different languages, but talking about the same thing. How do we make sure that the food systems that we create are stable, are able to feed the mouths that we have, but at the same time, being able to use technology whilst respecting the traditional traditions and those nature-based solutions that we have. We also have two that are online, two panelists that are online. So moving away from the financial sector, we will enter the humanitarian and the NGO sector. So we have Yen Bo-wen, CEO of Buddha-Tzu-Chi Foundation, and Dino Foe from Mozambique. So, CEO Yin, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry,
Yes, we
let's.
can hear you.
Okay,
Can
great,
you
great,
hear
great.
us?
So, the floor is yours. Thank
Okay,
you.
hi everyone. Thank you for having me here for this panel discussion. And also I'd like to, it's
Sorry,
great to
CEO
see,
Yin,
can you hear us?
sorry, CEO Yin. Is it possible to be slightly louder? I don't know if the volume there. Can you turn it up slightly a bit more? Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. That's perfect.
Is it
Thank
good?
you.
Is it good now?
Yes,
you hear?
yes, louder now. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you, Niven and Tiffany, and the panelists. Due to the technical issue, we lost the first portion of the first speaker, and so I have prepared a slide with me. So I'm going to go through my presentation slide. I wonder you can see the slide on your side. First page. This is the last page. move to first page. Okay. So can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the topic I'm going to talk is relief for empowerment and growth. Can I move? So I'd like to see the three words, unite, act, and deliver. That is important for this kind of COP28. And I also very pleasant to see that the COP28 presidency agreed to put food security on climate change agenda. And the good news is that COP28 mobilized over, in the first 4 days, already mobilized over 57 billion US dollar. And so far, already reached 83 billion US dollar. I think this is a record high for this kind of event. And for the food security, good to see the food security has been brought up so many discussion regarding the mobilize the global community for food system transformation. And good to see that more than 130 world leaders endorse food and agriculture declaration. And I would like to start with food security on climate change. The number of natural disasters per year has increased in recent years. The major nature disaster and cost on the rise due to the climate change. There are several kinds of natural disasters such as earthquake, fires, hurricanes, floods, and volcanoes. Another kind of the disaster was, my definition is conflict change. That is referred to man-made disasters such as war, pollution, nuclear exposures, hazardous materials exposures, fires, transportation accidents, and all can be attributed to conflict change. To me, most of the natural disasters are actually man-made disasters caused by human economic activities. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres addressed on the July 27th. July 7th is the hottest day ever since we scientifically measure the global surface temperature. And he further commented that the era of global boiling has arrived. He further commented that on the September 20th, the humanity has opened the gates of the hell. And a little bit about Tzu Chi, my organization. Tzu Chi Charity Foundation was founded by Dharma Master Zheng Yen in 1966. Tzu Chi means, Tzu means compassion, Ji means relief. So we are compassionate relief organization. We emphasize to inspire compassion and gratitude in both giver and recipient. Tzu Chi, we have 8 endeavors, 4 main endeavors, 4 minor endeavors. The 4 main endeavors are charity, medicine, education, and humanistic culture, 4 foundations, plus international relief and bone marrow registries and environmental protection and community volunteerism. We are located in Taiwan. right now we have over 600 offices and points across across the world in 67 countries. And we provided humanitarian aid in 133 countries. We are currently have about 1 million volunteers worldwide and about 10 million supporters and donors worldwide. And two key stats is we have been conduct a free clinic, more than 17,000 free clinics in 59 countries, and more than 3.7 million person time were benefited. We have been built 254 schools in 17 countries and more than 22,000 units of permanent house in 18 countries. So my topic will switch back to adaptation and mitigation. I would like to address how we ensure climate change adaptation brings about community resilience. First, we need to get community involvement. Secondly, the partnership across organization and areas is very important as well. And talking about the spiritual technology, we can turn in the inevitable disasters into the source of strength. So here I would like to give an example, Tzu Chi's Ukrainian refugee relief. So this is the Russia and Ukraine war began on February 24th, 2022. And in the first few months, you can see that the refugee outflow to the neighboring country of Ukraine. And Tzu Chi alone, we cannot take care of all those refugees. So we partner with many reputational NGOs and faith-based organizations, and also the UN, UNICEF, for those provided the humanitarian aid. And you can see that this is our connection with all those, part of our connection, or those NGOs and charity organizations. So Tzu Chi alone, we, our volunteers, doing the, in the very beginning, we're doing the emergency relief, and then volunteer training to help Ukrainian refugee become a helper. And we also conduct a music concert for counseling Ukrainian refugees in Poland. And 30 Tzu Chi volunteers coming from 12 countries gathering in Poland to conduct those humanitarian distributions and care. And we also have local volunteers, which are Ukrainian refugees in Poland. More than 1,000 many times. We conduct more than 150 distributions in the very beginning stage, benefited more than 81,000 refugees. And we also provide a casual work for Ukrainian refugees and to help to doing those good and cash card distributions. As I just mentioned, that we also partner with over 12 NGOs to conduct all those humanitarian aids. And the total assists reached to 1.3 billion assists. So this happened in Poland. You can see that we mostly help Ukrainian refugees in Poland. And you can see that the national flag of Ukraine and Poland is like the Buddhist flag. Buddhist flag is embrace these two countries' national flags. And this is Tzu Chi's long-term presence. We're still doing those humanitarian support, including home visits, family care, and medical care, rehabilitation inside Poland in 2 and 3 cities in Poland. And in Ukraine, we partner with the largest supermarket chain store in Lithuania, and to support the food to Ukraine. The project is Food for Ukraine. And we also have some Ukrainian refugees. They came back to Ukraine to help Tzu Chi to doing the blanket and goods distribution. And we also partner with some of the local NGOs to conduct those goods distribution. And this is Israel, the CEO of Israel, Yotam Palizer. He is also invited speaker in this year's Tzu Chi Forum. And we have been working with him since the erupted of the Ukrainian-Russia's war. And one of his message during the speech is, which impressed me most, is during the Israel and Hamas conflict, and he is not seeking the retaliation. He is instead, he's trying to build the bridges in trauma. So he brought up the PSG, post-traumatic growth, trying to seeking the solution to whether the conflict change through spiritual solutions. And this is pretty much aligned with Tzu Chi's our belief, the core value of our belief. And back to climate change, this is a quote from Gates Notes. You see that if the cattle as a country, and that will be the 3rd largest country in the world, and instead they also contribute the 3rd largest gas, greenhouse gas emissions. And you see that the electricity contributed 25% of the greenhouse gas emission, and agriculture accounts about 1/4 of the greenhouse gas emission, followed by manufacturing 25% and transportation 14%. And if we look into the agriculture, the animal agriculture accounts for 14.5%, which is larger than transportation. So this is something we can do. If we can turn those, the people become more plant-based diet, then we can much significantly reduce these portions greenhouse gas emission. So lastly, the solution to food security, and maybe the all kinds of security. I propose we can go plant-based diet, which has been mentioned long time ago, more than 20, 30 years, and responsible consumption, and mind and heart purification. This is our founder, Dharma Master Zheng Yan, her teaching. I personally believe this can be the solution for all. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. Now I turn the microphone to Dina.
Thank you very much, CEO Yin, and I think definitely bringing the perspective of climate change leading to a lot of conflicts and natural disasters, which then the humanitarian sector will come in and step in to help out that kind of cycle. And what we see through the work that we do in the humanitarian sector is directly linked back to this climate, and how do we help people without causing more trouble and more harm for the climate. And the last bit about consumption and about going on a plant-based diet, and how that we show, when we're showing compassion to people, we also must show compassion to animals and the world that is around us. So thank you very much, CEO Yin. And next we move on to Dino. Dino, can you tell us a bit more about the situation that's happening in Mozambique and how we are building resilience into the food system on the ground?
Thank you very much. I'm going to second the CEO Yen on the work that we are doing as Mozambique CG Charity Foundation. My name is Dino Foy, I'm from Mozambique. And what we are looking here is actually to do at one specific issue that a lot of panelists are talking about, community. In Mozambique, if you look at this, this slide, you'll find a lot of numbers that are not written there. The Global Climate Risk Index in 2019 ranked us number 1. In 2021, ranks us in top 5. This means that we are being affected highly. In the past, we could hear about a cyclone, one cyclone, but currently, actually, it's normal in Mozambique to have 3 to 4 cyclones per year. So we have a population of more than 32 million, and 80% of those cannot afford an adequate diet. It means that, I mean, only 7 million population can actually have what we call 3 meals per day, according to World Food Program site in 2021. Unfortunately, differently from other countries, the location of Mozambique is much more exposed to natural disasters. As I was saying, we have got 3 to 4 cyclones per year. Those will trigger definitely floods. But if you look at Mozambique, you'll find that Mozambique is actually one of the least developed countries in the world. So on top of that, more than 48% of population cannot read and write. And around the same percentage also live below the poverty line, which means $1 per day. What are we doing as a CG Foundation? We are looking in a way of taking care of those populations, specifically the community, and we brought in 3 specific challenges. In fact, we have an immediate solution, we have an intermediate solution, and we have a long-term solution. These are proposals that we put on the table, and some are going well, some are showing very good potential, and I will go over them. One is the acute food security. This is what I'm talking about to address the immediate needs. The second one is to strengthen the food system. So we'll go in doing a capacity building in agriculture. And the third is the sustainability, where we want to foster the community to support structures. The phase 1, addressing immediate needs. We served hot meals in disaster shelters. For instance, this year in Maputo, 1,000 people per day. And also we distribute food and agriculture kits that reached almost 34,000 households in 2023. These ones, food, agriculture, and construction kits. In the part of the food, we are the 25 kgs of maize, 5 kgs of beans, 5 kgs of peanuts, 2 kgs of salt, 2 kg of sugar, and 2 liters of oil. There is science behind it. We look at a balance of food that can actually go and detach the malnutrition aside and also give more protein into the community. And in the tools, specifically on those families that have been affected by cyclones, we give knives, hoes, nails, hammer, ropes for them to rebuild their houses that have been destroyed. But also there's another point here that we bring in, that's the seeds. We have got 3.5 kgs of sesame seeds, 1 kg of corn, 1 kg of beans, 10 grams of cabbage, and 10 grams of pumpkins. If you look at closely, you'll find out that the first item is actually what we'll call it an economic crop. In Mozambique, there is a policy, non-written policy, that every Mozambican has to have at least 1 hectare of land. And what we do in those areas, we give 3.5 kgs of sesame seeds. And these sesame seeds, if well produced, can actually reach 1 ton to 1.2 ton. That will give them a return to the household of closer to 1,000 US dollars. In a country where the GDP per capita is around $500, $1,000 in a local community is a lot of money. Unfortunately, I have to say it this way. And it will help those populations not only to acquire goods and probably even do some kind of business, but can support their children to get uniform for the schools and other goods for the school. So this is what we will call the a special kit that includes the items that I brought in the last slide. And then we go to the phase 2, where we establish community farming. What we do here is that CG will provide land for our community, whereby everyone will work as a team, and at the end of the day will share the product of that farm. And we go here and we do what we call train the trainers, whereby we'll offer the training of new ways of doing agriculture. I mean, some people say that agriculture is coming from Africa, but they need to learn new ways of doing it so that they can increase the productivity. And we try to avoid chemicals on what we do. As you can see here, this is a very mature sesame seeds plants that were actually already at this stage 3 months after cyclones, which means that, I mean, 3 months earlier, they were in a dire situation, and 3 months later, there is some kind of hope to make some money for themselves and their families. And then we have got a community support structure. This one, we want those communities that benefit from our help to deliver, to give back to others, specifically like giving back seeds, so that we can have this process going on throughout all the communities where CG Foundation works, and in a proactive manner. Obviously, we cannot leave aside the youth, because these are the future of our country. Like in Mozambique, where we've got the majority of population are young. So you'll find up here in this slide 5 different type of youth. One is learning farming, another one is doing information management, the other one is media, the other one is driver, and also we do the volunteer training in our community. On top of that, we have got a system whereby we actually monitor those crops that we planted, how many hectares we plowed, and so on, so that everyone learns and replicates throughout the communities. And obviously, as I was saying earlier, we want our young people to become the community leaders throughout the job that we are doing in the community. What comes forward is we are continuing to identify gaps in the knowledge and design of appropriate training for the community. And we believe that youth can have a driving and pivotal role so that they can become an agent of change capable of breaking the perpetual cycle of dependency. Unfortunately, from the country where I'm coming from, I mean, poverty is a cycle that needs to be broken. And we as City Foundation, we want to be part of that cycle whereby we want to also break that cycle. And then upscale to more communities where City operates. Currently, we are working in 3 different provinces, Maputo, Sofala, and Nampula. And we hope that in the future, we can replicate these good practices so that we can enrich the community and upscale their living standards. In general, this is what I have to give you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dino, for sharing with us. It's really nice to see that community coming together from the very traditional plants that we see to the way that we are using modern technology to make sure that we are planting at a scale that is suitable for the community that we're assisting. So thank you very much. So I think we have some time for any questions that we may have to the panelists and for them to maybe share a bit more about what they do. Do we have any questions? Okay, no, okay. Well, I actually have one. Oh, do you have a question or something to add? Okay, great. So the thing that I want to ask is because we had a lot of talk from different sectors and different kind of cross, say, for example, the humanitarian field, the finance sector, and also kind of in the local work that the science sector. So how do you think would be the best way or kind of a good way that we can keep the conversation going and to be able to work together?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question because it's definitely going to take a lot of interdisciplinary work in order to make this happen. I think one of the ways that we can work together is if we go in there, even if we're coming from all these different sectors and perspectives, we can agree that we're going in with the same goals and the same mindset. One of the things that I was trying to emphasize a bit in my little spiel was that if we continue to develop nature-based solutions with the same colonial mindset, regardless of what we're doing, we're going to reproduce the same structures. So it's honestly, to a certain extent, the mindset matters more than the technology or implementation.
Okay, great. So going back to the values and the beliefs that we all have, do we have?
Just building up on that, it's also important to realize that we need to start bridging our languages because sometimes when someone hears maximization, profitability, scale up, to try to also define what we mean by these things. Do we mean like scaling up that only one person makes profit, or do we mean scaling up by meaning like it scales to the masses and the solution is used for everyone. So it is very important to also hold that we are the intent that we all want to do good and not to get into that space of you said this word, I said this word, and then conflict, and then we don't really get nowhere. So yeah, I think that's very important, bridges of language.
Yeah, my feedback is I think there are several couple of things. We always provide our advice to social entrepreneur in MBS business model. I think the most important is should be open-minded. I think that is one very important point. Sometimes in the nature-based solutions, some of the key players, they are quite narrow-minded. Say, what I say just only right. The others is not correct. So openness for more constructive dialogue, that is very good for partnership. And second one is, I think the local culture is also very important. If we don't know the local culture, then we just insist that is right. And then it work here is supposed to work over there, but sometimes most of the time it is not. So the local culture supposed to need to be considered. So we always identify, one thing very important is to identify the local key player, because they will take the championship and then gradually to introduce or embed some MBS, no matter that is a technology, science, or some much more business-oriented thinking to facilitate the entrepreneur to revisit their business model. So sometimes that if we know the culture, that will much easy to close the gap. And the third point is it depends on what kind of scale we are working on. Sometimes it's pretty, individual level. Sometimes it can be a co-op level. Sometimes it's entrepreneur, small and medium-sized level. And sometimes it's something like the big company and try to transfer their business model and working with a small supplier in some least developed country. So it depends on what kind of a level. Then we might also consider different kind of characteristic corresponding to different level, different scale. Then the most important is that we try to make things happen. It is not just only we do have an ambition, try to convince someone to adopt the way, but the most important is that we try to make things happen. So sometimes even very good science, but we also reserve some flexibility to let the model can be acceptable and adapt to the local situation or the different organizations' capacity for doing that. Yeah, that is my feedback.
I'm just going to take this back for like 30 seconds because what you were saying had me thinking of some analogies. And also, I think I misexplained something earlier and it's been bugging me this whole time. I want to delve into the concept of dosage and moderation, because I feel like if we're talking about working interdisciplinarily, the mindset of, okay, this is going to be the one method that solves things spills into the physical practices we do with our food system. So when I was talking about SAGE and how it has acetylcholinesterase inhibitors, which allow, it's a double negative, so it's complicated, but it allows you to have more acetylcholine, which is necessary for your brain and body to function. SAGE essentially makes your brain and body function better. Acetylcholinesterase inhibitors, or that same thing, are also how some of the pesticides work. The issue is the dosage and the overuse and like just the ridiculous amplification is part of what the issue is, versus if you have SAGE kind of around your plants, that's going to function as a much more like natural and functional pesticide. Basically a pesticide to ward things off a little bit instead of applying tons and tons and tons and tons to the point where it becomes toxic. You can always have too much of a good thing, not to mention that when you're talking about pesticides, it's kind of like exclusively those things versus the plant, which also has a bunch of other chemicals and functions inside of it that help balance this out, because plants evolved for themselves. They did not evolve for us. We are trying to make things that are exclusively for us, and it is ignoring the rest of the complex structure that is within all of these more natural solutions. So yeah, it's this kind of one shot, one solution, one issue mentality that is leaking over into even just like our physical applications of agriculture. Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up in terms of like being open-minded and thinking of different solutions, and that just kind of made me think of it. Sorry for stealing the mic.
Thank you very much. I don't know if CEO Yin or Dino, you have any ideas on how to work together through different sectors?
Actually, I want to second my colleague that was sprayed by pesticides when young in California, is that if I take to my country the fact that actually 40% of the production of food production of United States going into the waste, my people will go crazy because my people don't even have food. So at the end of the day, I think the world leaders or whoever has to come forward, they need to sit and see that we have got different problems. We need to go and look at those problems and bring in different solutions. There is no one solution for all. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dino. Definitely, I think the consensus that we have, which is that one solution that we have, is that there is no one solution and that we need to explore all the different solutions that are out there, but in a way that is not only good for production, for profitability, for people. There's so many P's in the stories, but that we all need to work towards these solutions, and not only working towards these solutions, but reflecting back on what are the traditional methods that we had and how do we integrate them with the new technology that we have at present time.
Yeah, I would like to add one more point regarding the question, how do we work together on MBS? I think there is one very important point that we need to exchange more practical, useful, and applicable solution. If we want to back to nature, and we think about the indigenous people, traditional way for farming, for producing food, and then a lot of very good examples that might be in some least developed countries or in the mountain near the seashore, but we don't have much awareness about that. But that might be very valuable. So we need to create more platform for sharing and learn by example. For example, I would like to tell you one fact that in Europe, in Netherlands, there are some, floating farms and some floating house for those kind of very super brilliant example. And that attract a lot of people go to Rotterdam to see the floating garden, something like that. But look at Vietnam, Cambodia, a lot of floating garden for farming vegetables or even to raise some animal has been already there for a couple decades. And then because of flooding, always, so they build up the floating gardens. That has been years. And then nobody go over there and learn for that. So we need to build up those kind of more example sharing. So everybody, we can explore more existing really great MBS, and then we can learn, and maybe we can integrate some modern technology to make it much better. Okay, so that I think that is also one thing I would like come to my mind. I always think a lot of people ask about what is MBS, what are the MBS, and then so these kind of examples I think will be a very good way for keeping more, especially the youth, understand when we want to back to nature. A lot of very good traditional solution has been already there. How can we maximize or scaling up those kind of good examples? Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. And it leads really well to my next question is, today is Youth Day, right? So how do we encourage the youth, and what message do we want to give the youth to have concrete examples or concrete actions towards creating climate resilient food systems whilst thinking about the nature-based solutions?
Well, youth are a very, very important solution in this conversation, because the youth come with clear lenses. They have not been conditioned just like their parents, and so they can easily see with fresh eyes. And we really, really need to create spaces to empower them, and we need to divert finance to youth solutions as well. We need to also empower them to be leaders of their communities. There's incredible work that's being done with youth across the board, whether in activism or actually in technology. And really, really, they are the solution, and we just really need to empower them in this conversation. So I'm glad that we have a youth day today here, but just sometimes appalled by the lack of financing that youth get. And then I just want to add on financing. It's like, how do we change the perspective of these private investors to look at returns beyond monetary? And when they keep speaking about de-risking finance because, you know, supposedly investing in traditional ways is a risk, I find that a bit, it's paradoxical, because actually the traditional methods that you are investing in eventually will de-risk us from the climate situation. So they're not actually risky investments. So how can we really change that narrative to go from beyond monetary and that way of thinking? And in that, well, if we actually see that the youth are the seeds and what would generate, how can we invest in our youth and let the finance flow there to youth and indigenous communities? So yeah.
Yeah, I second everything Aya just said. We need to invest in youth. Two things that come to mind in terms of either protecting or engaging youth within our food systems is one, there need to be much stronger protections for farm workers, many of whom are youth and get completely forgotten about in a lot of these discussions. And that also just honestly kind of goes back to capitalism. Like the reason we are in this, the reason we're in this position and the reason there are people like slaving away practically and not being able to use their energy towards climate solutions is because we're stuck in this system that keeps people on a hamster wheel and unable to function. And it leads to a lot of wasted potential, which I just find appalling. So yeah, to be totally honest, I don't have a specific bill or anything off the top of my head for like youth farm worker protections. But honestly, if you Google like United Farm Workers, there's a lot of different farm worker advocacy organizations that you can use, and they'd be able to explain it a lot better than I could. But yeah, there are plenty of youth who are suffering in our food systems in order to feed us. To this day that have no protections. The second thing I'm thinking of in terms of traditional food systems and youth is better maternal health, especially for indigenous communities. Like we can't have youth if they're not even being born. Like indigenous women and just speaking from the US, have a 3 to 4 times higher likelihood of dying in childbirth and pregnancy. And there is a much higher likelihood of, indigenous babies being born either prematurely or they are going to suffer through gestational diabetes. And none of that is due to genetic issues within indigenous women. Those are due to social structures that are causing these effects. Like the issue is not our wombs. The issue is our external circumstances. And if we don't invest in better maternal health care, we're not going to have youth that are starting off on better footing. I mean, even going into indigenous food systems and pollutants, there are plenty of pollutants that will bioaccumulate in our traditional food systems, in particular animals like marine mammals. Persistent organic pollutant bioaccumulation is a huge issue for Alaska Native communities, to the extent that it can even be passed on through breast milk. Like you're just starting off being polluted. And I tend to not romanticize childbirth or reproduction, but the fact that there are pollutants that are being transmitted between a parent and their child during breastfeeding should be a crime against humanity. It is one of the most appalling things I can think of. So if we do not invest in better maternal health, we are not going to have we're not going to have prepared youth to do this?
Thank you.
I think I have one very important point for me because I'm also MBA professor. I lead Asian MBA Young Talent to visit the most sustainable companies in Europe to let them to see that what big effort, innovation, incredible creativity has been already get access to the market and then available in the whole market transformation. If you look at the 100 years back, the most innovative entrepreneurship or new invention to change the whole world, the entrepreneur are around 25 years old. So I'm already 61 years old. So sometimes I might ignore the youth, their crazy idea, innovation, or capability for changing the whole world. Now we are looking to phase out the fossil fuel economy to the low carbon economy in the near future. So we need a lot of input and participation much more aggressively by the youth, and then try to explore whether they can become the most promising entrepreneur for changing our whole world. So my advice is, I would like to advise a lot of youth, if you want to make a difference to change the whole world, just look and try to explore the solution from the nature. Yeah, so that is my advice.
Thank you. And can we have 5 minutes. So maybe Dino and then CEO Yen. Advice to youth.
Yes, actually, Tzu Chi have been doing those the young talent incubation program for years. For example, we have so-called IYLP, the International Youth Leadership Program, and each year we provide 2 to 3 young talents to come to join this COP28 events, 27, 26 in the past 3 years. Last year we have 3 young talents, one from Philippines, one from Malaysia, and I'm not sure this year. I guess probably one of them are in this chamber.
Yeah, they're sitting right.
Yes, and that is we invest those training program, incubation program to for those young talents to get them involved, to contribute their creativity and their thinking on this very important topic, especially the climate change is become a more and more critical topic for all of us. This is something I can respond. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Dino, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. As I said, Mozambique is a country of youth. So we have got different program for those young people. In fact, specifically as a CG Foundation, we know that their parents, we can have different programs. But for the kids, for the young people, we select them, we send them to Taiwan. We make sure that they've got scholarship locally so that they can have an advance in their lifestyle and also change in their community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So nearing the end of our panel, it has been a really good discussion between different sectors and different generations as well, about what is it that we can do to create these solutions that will be sustainable towards the climate crisis that we're having now. So thank you very much, panelists, and please stay online and we'll take a quick photo together. So thank you very much, everyone.